This is the KBIS series, recorded live from the KBIS podcast studio. The kitchen may be the heart of the home, but specifiers are the pulse of the profession. These are the inside stories, the decisions, strategies, and intelligence that turn ideas into incredible design. Welcome back to the KBIS series. I got another absolutely incredible episode for you today, recorded live in the KBIS podcast studio. This one is called Stop Surviving the Industry, Start Shaping It, with the folks from Forest Cabinetry. Amazing. In a category often defined by tradition, Forest Cabinetry is applying data science, manufacturing discipline, and cross-industry thinking to challenge long-held assumptions about cabinetry. Their approach reveals how operational precision, not marketing, creates real value for designers, builders, and homeowners. Forest Cabinetry's leadership team, including CEO John Morgan, COO Nathan Boone, and CIO Michael Boone, share how treating cabinetry as an information-driven business, not just a manufacturing process, has enabled dramatic gains in quality, efficiency, and affordability. And seriously, who couldn't use a little bit more affordability right now? So, from machine learning and performance-based compensation to packaging innovation and cultural transformation, their story illustrates how operational clarity creates competitive advantage. Cabinetry has long been viewed as a static category, right? Functional, necessary, but rarely innovative. Yet beneath the surface, a new generation of manufacturers is redefining what cabinetry can be by focusing not on materials alone, but on systems, on data, and on human performance. In this conversation, we talk about how this leadership team built a manufacturing culture centered on measurable output, accountability, and continuous improvement. Their approach borrows heavily from industries like the automotive manufacturing, Formula One racing, and the tech industry itself, where precision, repeatability, and efficiency are essential. By applying machine learning to packaging optimization, implementing transparent performance metrics across their workforce, and prioritizing supply chain flexibility, the company has achieved a damage and defect rate of just 0.69%, far below the industry average, 2.5 to 3.5%, as I am told, and you will hear. So listen, we talked about a lot, and ultimately, this conversation reveals a powerful truth. Cabinetry is no longer just a product, it's a system. And the manufacturers who treat it as such are redefining the future of the industry. You're going to hear about cabinetry as an information business, not just a manufacturing business. We talk about efficiency as a competitive edge, data-driven workforce, performance, and culture, quality control as a system, not a department, cross-industry innovation, and borrowed thinking. Innovation often comes from outside an industry. That's how we grow. And you're going to hear how they did it. Affordability as a design and manufacturing strategy, cultural transformation, and generational leadership. There is an absolute ton for you to take away from this, and I hope you do. And you're going to hear it all right here, live from the KBIS podcast studio, presented by AJ Madison. How's your show so far?
Phenomenal.
Yeah, it's
phenomenal.
Been exceptional. The walk-through traffic has been incredible. One of the nicest things about the show for us is that the people coming into the booth are decision makers. And when you come to a show like this as an exhibitor, being able to talk to the people that can actually make the decisions to do business with you is the most valuable thing you can have.
And face-to-face doesn't happen as much as it used to. It really, this is essential for that. Do me a favor, for those listening. Let's start. Introduce yourselves. Tell me about yourself. Tell me about the company. Tell me what you do.
Sure. My name's John Morgan. I am the CEO and one of the 3 owners, we have the other 2 owners with me today, of Forest Cabinetry. We're a cabinet manufacturer based in Southern Virginia, the Virginia Beach area, for anybody who's familiar with that. We've been in business a little over 10 years. We're really, really proud to be here today. We have been insanely successful over the last several years in a down market. So we are always happy to have conversations like this, about showing how adaptability allows you to weather any storm. And thank you for having us here today.
And I'm Michael Boone. I'm our Chief Information Officer. And I work mostly on our data and back-end systems. A lot of things that support our production system, and I got my start doing that. About 9 years ago, I started right at the very beginning, and it's been like a rocket ship ever since.
Yep. And I am Nathan Boone, Michael's brother actually, and our COO. So, got my fingers in a little bit of everything with the company, and actually, I'm sure we'll get into this a little bit more. But Forest Cabinetry is just one of the businesses that we own. But always doing something fun. We have an awesome team, and super excited to be here today.
Yeah, and Josh, before we go forward, I want to share, we'll talk a lot about our team because I think that's one of the things that makes us different and allows us to overcome the typical obstacles most businesses run into day to day. But one of the interesting things you mentioned, KBIS, is about connection, being connected to the industry. These 2 gentlemen are both 30 under 30s in the National Kitchen and Bath Association. Nathan, who's to my far right, is actually the chair of the Exhibitor Council for the entire show. Got to stand on the big stage yesterday in front of hundreds of thousands of people and be able to speak, and that was awesome. And my background, I have a long background in the NKBA, including being the past president of the industry. And as well as this show coming together, you go back 10, 11 years ago or whatever it was, 12 years ago, I guess. I actually, with Bill Darcy, got to sign all the contracts to put the Builder Show and the Kitchen Show together. So every time I come here, it brings a tear to my eye to see what this has become.
It's really amazing, and it's funny too. I got to be honest with you, I'm kind of bummed because I was hoping, I really tried to put this together. The fact that Daytona was on Sunday, I was trying so hard to get here on Saturday. It's uniquely KBIS. This is the only trade show where you can sit in a fishbowl and have people distract you from outside the plexiglass.
Absolutely. It's the fun part.
I tried so hard to get here on Friday so I could get here for the Saturday race, and for Sunday. It just didn't happen. I was like, I will never be this close to Daytona again.
Well, I did see that Bill and the team got to go over to Daytona. I'm not sure what they did there, but I did see that in social media. And I have to say, the first time we met you, you mentioned your love for racing.
Yeah.
So Michael's had us watching videos on pit stops ever since, because we talk about efficiency. Tell them about the pit stop video, Michael.
Yeah, they were showing a video between the 1950 pit stop and the 2013 pit stops. It's like a 10-year-old YouTube video. But they show, it's got to be 5 guys around this car. 2 minutes later, he's coming out of the pit stop. They're like, oh, quick pit stop there. And now they show the 2013 video overhead. You've got 14, 15, 20 guys surrounding this car, and they've got that thing out in less than 2 seconds. It's unbelievable.
Have you ever seen an F1 pit stop?
Well,
Yeah.
that's actually
That's
the
exactly
video.
what
That's
we're
the one
talking
you're
about.
looking at.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, so NASCAR is like I'm not going to go here, but NASCAR is like 9.8 seconds, and it used to be like 13, 15 seconds. It's incredible. What it does, by the way, I started my podcast, I started the company, the product, based on NASCAR, because if you think about it, interior design and architecture, our industry, is the same thing. NASCAR, you have drivers, you have teams and sponsors, you have fans. In our industry, you have designers and architects and builders, you have sponsors and teams, and you have the fans, which are the homeowners, end user, client.
Yep.
It's the same principle, and if you look at that, and you look at the business of it, it's always you're getting better, you're getting faster, you're getting stronger.
Well, we listened to you when we talked to you that time, and it was interesting because as a business philosophy, we've always been about how do you create the efficiency to make it right every time for your customer, because it's about reliability, right? So when you're doing a pit stop, you need to be able to rely on that team to do it the same way each and every time. And as a business, especially Michael's team, they strive to not only do it quickly, but to do it accurately and always give you the right information. And as a manufacturer, over the last several years, we've been able to lower what we call a DM ratio, which is damages, quality control, missing pieces, and so forth, down to 0.69%. The industry runs at 2.5 to 3.5. Matter of fact, and we don't name people here, but one of the biggest national brands, publicly traded companies, 6 months ago touted in their quarterly report that they had gotten one of their brands to be 3%, got it down to 3%. We are running at 0.69%. And what that means is, as you said, the designers, the homeowner, the dealers, that guarantees reliability and that they can do this, they can order things and forget about it. And it just makes everybody's lives easier from top to bottom.
Because, what I would say is whether you're talking about any product, any segment of the industry, from, entry level to people with the most amount of money out there, they all have different priorities, whether it's quality, price, a number of different factors. But what I can tell you is they all want things to show up on time and complete, right? That's really everybody's goal. So, to John's point, I think that's certainly been a focus of ours.
And just like the pit stop, you want to get onto the next lap and you don't want to be thinking about, did he rotate my lug nuts all the way?
So it's interesting that you say that, because it's true. And by the way, if you're listening to this and you're thinking we're going to talk NASCAR the whole time, we're really, really not. However, what I find fascinating about that is our industry doesn't do this as much, but other industries actively pursue those from outside the industry to come into the industry to share industrial knowledge from other facets of business. I'm a journalist. I came from broadcast. I came from radio. Very, very different business structures. But there's a value to learning things from other people. And you talk about the lugs, going from 5 lug nuts years ago to 1 lug nut, and still the wheel will come off. Like you're talking about problems. Problems happen. It's not if they happen, because they're going to happen. It's not when they happen, because you can't predict that. Mm-hmm. It's how you respond to it.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How do you build a team where you can be forgiving of the errors because they happen, yet continue to strive to get better?
Well, and I would also say, to your point about, people bringing in others from other industries to have different perspectives. That's one of the things we do when we're hiring. I am actively not looking for people with cabinet backgrounds. In fact, we look at ourselves like an information company. And so we're bringing in people from diverse backgrounds, but specifically oftentimes with a data focus or an information focus, because, we can sell a phenomenal product, but if I can't get it to you on time, if I can't service it the right way, then it's pointless.
And I will tell you too, we're always looking for new ideas. In our industry, you're talking about trying to think about accuracy and how people do things. In our industry, appliance companies have less tolerance for errors than a cabinet company does. Plumbing companies have less tolerance for errors than a cabinet company does. And I think what we do is we uniquely try to take the thought process that you would see in a company like that, or even the automotive industry. I can tell you our original cabinet was designed by an automotive engineer. We try to look at how they do things and apply that to the kitchen world, because cabinet manufacturers traditionally have not been those types of companies. And if you look at our leadership team, I'm older than that, but our entire leadership team is between 25 and 35.
Yep, that's correct.
When you walk into our offices look more like a technology company, wide open spaces, there aren't walls. I used to joke with people that, if you want to know how relevant you are, count how many walls there are between you and the CEO of the company, and the more there are, the less relevant you are, right? Mm-hmm. There are no walls in our offices. We are all in the same area together, and that attracts a very different partner to your company. These two guys I mentioned are 30 under 30s. We have 6 other 30 under 30s on our team, and I think we've had as many as 12.
Yep.
It's a very young dynamic. It's a very diverse dynamic compared to the rest of the industry, and it definitely brings a different thought process to what we do. And I'll use Michael as an example. Michael really leads our technology and information, which is the heart of our company. If you bring most cabinet manufacturers in, they're going to talk about machinery and sawdust and things like that. We make, I don't know, can I curse on air? We make kick-ass cabinets, but ultimately, It's about accurate information, and Michael's put together quite the team to do that for us.
Yeah, I mean, I know you mentioned, problems and when they arise and building a problem-solving culture. It's once you get that culture of people that say, oh, look, if this problem's happened, we're not the only people to have this problem. So this is a great opportunity for us to excel over our competitors, to be better than everybody else. But also, it kind of gets your endorphins going. This is why you come to work.
Yeah.
If there's no problems, there's nothing to do. It's
I hate
fun.
to say that we like problems, but our office gets very excited when something happens because we're all trying to compete with each other to figure out how we solve it.
That's true.
Well, and I ask you that because the only way that you can really discover, let me rephrase, as a longtime soccer coach, I can tell you firsthand at a decent level, club coach, you don't learn anything from your wins. You don't learn anything from your wins. You only learn from your losses. You can celebrate your wins, absolutely, and celebrating is great, but you only learn from that. And I wanted to ask you, how do you think about your product? How do you think about cabinetry? And I ask that because you will be the first to attest. You will agree. Your industry doesn't always, and I'm not saying it's some, or your industry doesn't always think about it as an innovative product. It is a product to get out the door, to serve a very simple purpose. Am I right?
Our industry is old and stale.
Okay.
100% we agree with you. And honestly, we think that that's why we've been so successful, because we approach it from a different angle than most.
How do you think about cabinetry? What is cabinetry to you?
I mean, I'm not sure if I'm getting the heart of your question.
Let me clear it up so
please.
that you do. It's almost like the word luxury. If you ask 10 different people, it's an overused word, it really is, but if you ask 10 different people what luxury is, you will get 12 different answers. To some people, it's materiality and it's product. To some people, it's time. To some people, it's ease of use. To some people, it's different to everybody. So when I ask you what cabinetry is, I know what it is to me, and I know how I think about it, but I'm an end user. I'm not the one who has to ideate new ways of thinking about it so that you can do something different and new, which is why I'm curious how you think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, my personal experience is, I love to cook, and so I love to be in my kitchen. And I would tell you that most people, different from maybe 30 or 40 years ago, most people spend most of their time in their home in their kitchen. I do. I can tell you, I probably spend 80 to 90% of the time in my house in my kitchen, just going to my bedroom to sleep. And because I love to cook and I'm bringing my family around and I'm having family dinners, I'm having friends over all the time, the importance of having a beautiful kitchen, having a nice product, but having the accessibility within my kitchen and the ability to cook and do the things that I want to do, super, super important. And so, we want to provide a product that people are proud to have in their kitchen and that people are proud to use when they're cooking, when they're having family over, when the little kid is, spilling their milk on the floor, all those things. So I think, for me, it's you always hear the heart of the home is the kitchen. It's certainly in my case. But so I guess it's there's a bit of a dichotomy there, right? It's very data driven, but at the same time, it's certainly something that at least I care about, we care about, in terms of what we're doing. So,
I would add that for many people, especially people at this conference, right? This is the biggest conference in the world every year, and focused on kitchen and bath and construction and such. And here, when you're in the kitchen hall, so much of it's about fashion. So I'm going to tell you that part of what we do has to be about fashion, and I see it that way. It's the world I came from originally. I came from the custom world, and I see it as fashion. But ultimately, when we leave this building, it has to be about the end consumer. It has to be about the customer, which is really today about affordability, because everything has become so cost-focused. When I first started in the industry, kitchen cabinets were the first thing you selected when you were going to redo your kitchen. Nowadays, people are selecting their countertops, their appliances, even hardware and things like that. And those have all become so much more expensive, it squeezes the budget for the cabinets, which has created this, we call it the Goldilocks zone, where you have to still be fashionable, but you have to be affordable. And our goal as a company, we said early on when we started the company, we wanted to make sure, because we could watching the industry change going back 15 years ago, we wanted to make sure, or felt like everybody deserves the ability to have a great kitchen, a beautiful kitchen. And we wanted to make sure that we could hit that affordability model where people, can buy that kitchen, but still have it be the quality and the fashion that they wanted it to be.
I will say this too. You are in an industry that is so exciting right now. And I don't rarely say that cabinetry is exciting, but it is, because since the pandemic, no room has changed more than the kitchen. Since that happened and people got a chance to realize what true desire was. Look, we're in a desire business. Ours is a desire business, full stop. Once they got to see what they wanted, when I grew up, a kitchen was 3 appliances on a triangle.
Right.
An outdoor kitchen was a Weber and a hose.
Sure.
And regular kitchen, dirty kitchen, working kitchen, butler's pantry, scullery, ensuite kitchenette, exterior ensuite outdoor kitchenette. It is absolutely extraordinary. Wine columns. It is extraordinary what people are doing. I was telling the story earlier about a designer who had a client who loved soda and mixing soda, and when they had their kitchen redone, they installed a 5-tap soda jar.
It wasn't my kitchen.
Yeah.
So anytime someone wants to add something, they have to include cabinetry. You have to. How do you think about this ever-expanding kitchen environment, and where does that come from in your research and development and how you ideate new opportunities? Albeit you got to make it affordable.
Got to be affordable.
But it's new. These are new areas where there are new revenue streams. Really, it's a new revenue stream for you.
Well, we would encourage everyone to have cabinets in every room in their house. We are all for that for sure.
But I think as the kitchen's expanded, the budgets haven't expanded at the same rate, right? So, that's once again, you're getting squeezed in your price per box. And that's where, we try to come in with a cabinetry line that's going to fit most of the needs of the consumer, but still get them that value. You can't be all things to all people, and that's what custom cabinetry is for. There's people that have that budget, but we can offer that value and get those people that custom quality box, but hit that price point.
So let's actually talk about that a little bit, because I want to touch base on chaos and barriers to entry and the things that are limiting your ability to be as affordable as you might want to be. And there are policy issues that you have zero control over. How do you work around these, and how are you maximizing opportunity?
Yeah, we say all the time, successful people will always succeed. We just need to know what the rules are. So I think, bigger than any sort of policy change is just kind of the lack of clarity that we've had in recent times, right? We always say, just tell us what the rules are. Tell us what the rules are, and we can figure out where to go next. So I think, there's a number of things that we've really focused on in terms of having a diversified supply chain, in terms of making sure that we have, great partnerships with our vendors, with our customers and those things, being very clear in our communication, and try to always be forward-looking, and doing the best you can, right? It's not always a lot you can do to really understand what's going to happen next, especially in the recent times. So this has been a challenge, but it's also been an opportunity for us to be, have a stronger relationship with our customer, be more communicative, that kind of thing.
Just like I said earlier, with a problem-solving culture, if you can solve a problem better than your competitors, that's an opportunity to get a leg up.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
I want to give a couple examples about Michael's team. It's about efficiencies, because we're running any issues like you just mentioned that we're dealing with, so is everyone else. Right? Ultimately, it's not about our specific product. It's really about the affordability of the whole remodel, all the products, labor, all of those things included. But there are certain companies that accept those and then pass those costs along, and then there's other companies that are always looking for ways to improve. How do you improve efficiency? How do you do it in different ways? How do you, as you said, stop trying to do it like another cabinet manufacturer would do it, but rather look to another industry and see how they do it better? And we've been very willing to do that. If you go back a few years ago, cardboard prices were crazy, right, Michael? Michael was having to deal with that with his team. And we were in the midst of trying to figure out how to redesign our box that goes around the cabinetry. So we had to not only try to find an efficient, cost-effective way to do it, but also increase the protection of the cabinets. The cabinets are heavy products, they're very difficult to ship, and that's why our industry has such a high level of damages and so forth in it. Michael's team didn't look at other cabinet manufacturers as much as the cardboard company wanted us to, because every time the cardboard company came to us, they gave us designs that increased the amount of cardboard we were using. So Michael's team went and looked at it.
I got a quick note about that because that was, it was always funny. They're like, well, we can reduce your waste. Here's what we're going to do. If there's waste, we'll just put it into the box. I said, that's not reducing my waste. That's just making my customer throw it away. So, they would. There was all these optimizations we had to do to try to get, because in cabinetry there's so many different sizes. Most appliance companies, they have a handful of sizes, and they're large boxes, but they keep those stock, pieces in inventory. For us, you need custom cardboard cutting machines so that you can cut out all the sizes that you need. And then we used a couple machine learning algorithms to make sure that we had the most optimum set of widths to feed into our machines so that we got our waste corrugate rate down to 4.3%, which for furniture, I'm told by some of the large corrugate plants that furniture average is 12.5% waste on corrugate. So we were pretty proud of that. And that was a really fun design process with the team. And one of our main goals was, hey, we want to be able to take this cabinet apart so that if somebody wants to inspect it, they can, but then we don't want it to be Humpty Dumpty afterwards, right? We want this thing to be able to come back together. So that was, a long learning process. We took a while, and I came back to John with a couple of designs, and he said, make it better. Make it better. And we did. We made it better and better, and then we finally got it to the point where we were really, really proud of it. So.
And it's so unique in what we did. We ended up and were interviewed by the Wall Street Journal about it. Because at that time, people were not able to save costs in cardboard. And then we did a segment on CNBC midday. And I'm laughing. We build kitchen cabinets. We're in the fashion industry, and we're on TV talking about cardboard boxes, right?
Yeah.
But that's what most manufacturers don't do in our segment of the industry. The appliance companies would do it. The plumbing companies would do it. But we as a cabinet manufacturer, unique that we looked at it in that way and figured, how can we do this better so that we're not having to pass that cost on to the customers? And I would tell you, and I want to keep giving Michael the credit, the youngest member of our group here, I want to keep giving him credit. He runs a team that jokingly in the office we call the Wonder Team. And what they do is they're really information technology-based people, but we bring all of our problems to them, whether it's in the factory, whether it's in sales, whether it's cardboard, whatever it is, because we have a bunch of young, brilliant minds who will look at things in ways that we traditionally would not look at them. I wouldn't look at them the same way they do. And then we problem solve as a group. And as I said, it's a fun effort. It's truly a fun effort, everybody trying to come up with the ideas. And these two don't include me in that as much as they used to. What they do now is the teams all get together and they go through all of these iterations of ideas. And then I can walk into the office and I can see everybody smiling because I know they're going to show me something that's awesome and they're ready to do it. And usually they show it and there's a couple more things we need to do to it. But it's really a fun process how they look at it.
And I think, we've all discovered and our team has discovered that really challenges typically lead to making you better, creating improvements for the long term. So I'll give you another example. Back during COVID and everybody was having labor shortages and troubles on the workforce. And so one of the things we did was we went through our production facility and
I want to say we never, ever had a labor issue.
Yes.
And it's because of the thinking they have.
Yeah, and it was actually it was interesting. We were kind of going through this pre-COVID and looking at ways to do what I'm about to tell you, but COVID really amplified this and made it one of our strengths, and that is we went through our entire production facility and we looked at how we could really measure output. I think a lot of companies out there, you might have an employee who you really love, they've worked for you for 30 years. But quite honestly, their output isn't that great, right? You could hire somebody off the street in 3 weeks and have them doing more than the guy you've had for 30 years. So we looked and we said, look, we love our employees, but we really want to look at output only. And so we devised a system where we were able to assign points to most things we do in our production facility. So, whether it's picking something or, building something, manufacturing something, or spraying something, we were able to assign points to those things. And then we were able to measure output in a very easy and realistic way so that we could pay our people more who are outputting more. So then what we would say is when we were hiring people is, hey, it's very simple. You come in whatever role you're in, we can very clearly see your output. And if you would like to output more, you're going to get paid more. And so it created a very advantageous system where we were able to pay a lot more, especially in our little regional community, than some of the companies around us. We had no labor troubles at all, and we were getting phenomenal output from it. Our teams are happier. Obviously our CFO is happier with the numbers, and so it worked. It worked on all ends.
You are listening to the KBIS series presented by AJ Madison. We'll be right back. AJ Madison Pro is the industry's trusted appliance source for professionals who need fast, reliable access to top brands. Backed by nationwide shipping and a powerful logistics network, delivery is precise and dependable. With over 150 premium brands, including Sub-Zero, Wolf and Cove, Miele, Viking, Thermador, Gaggenau, and more, AJ Madison Pro is your single source for appliance specification. Qualified builders and architects can save up to 15% on luxury brands through exclusive trade programs, with registration handled for you. AJ Madison Pro, smarter appliance sourcing starts at ajmadison.com/pro.
And the folks that actually assign or validate the output is actually the quality control team. Most manufacturers will have a QC person at an end of a line, let's say when you're building cabinets, or they might have two. We literally have a QC person per every 4 employees in the building. They don't get validated for points until the QC person signs off on their output. And it's really created a competitive environment within the building, a safe environment, because they're being judged on that as well. You ever watch the movie Monsters, Inc.?
Sure.
You know the scare board?
Sure.
We have a scare board.
That's incredible.
Yep.
These guys came up with a scare board where everybody in the building can see what their output is and how they're performing, and everybody knows how much the next person makes because they can see the level that they're performing at.
And to John's point, when we created that system, again, you're only getting points when it's quality control approved. What we essentially did was, instead of having a team of quality control people, every single person in our production facility is focused on quality because they don't want to waste their time doing something and not get the points for it. And so, now I've got every single person from top to bottom looking at quality control all the time, and it's really led, for, like John said, to a 0.69% DM ratio. That's certainly been a component of it.
And the people that benefit the most from that are our customers.
Yep.
Because they're not having to order replacements, they're not having to wait for things, they're not having to go out to the field to touch stuff up, they're not having to deal with an unhappy consumer, and it's all because from the very beginning we're focused on QC, and the team understands that. It's about communicating.
Yeah, it's very data-driven.
Speaking of data-driven, how do you navigate, you talked about output, talked about input, the materiality, the material sourcing, availability, working with what you have and working around what you can't get?
Yeah, I mean, when you're sourcing anything, I think, there's, hey, this is my ideal scenario, right? But then I got to have a backup, hey, if I'm going to buy this part, I also need to be able to make it. I think one of the big things that, John and Nathan, we were talking about, like, making a slab door the other day, and there was this one neat way of making a slab door that a vendor had showed us, and I said, I don't want to do it that way because I need to be able to make it in my shop the exact same way, and I don't need that machinery for anything else, So a lot of times our focus is, hey, here's scenario A, this is plan A. We always have to have backups, options, and things like that. And then on top of that, with all the changes to rules that have been happening over the last few years, it's just anything you can do to keep yourself as most educated as possible. So, and what's happened is we've really developed a lot of good contacts along the way. Just knowing people that are in the know and have really good advice, and that's been the best. It's just, if you don't know something, if you find somebody who knows and you ask them, they'll tell you right away. People love to be asked questions when they're the expert, right? I could ask you about NASCAR, you would talk all day about it, right? So, and it's because you love it, and you get a sense of gratification over teaching me, right? And people will see that as a sign of respect. And so I think, if you have a question open culture like that, it works.
I'm curious, and I think you guys are probably the ones to give me an answer to this. When it comes to materiality and process, how do you experiment with new materials, new product, new technology as it's related to new materials? Because I do believe that with what we have now, sourcing traditional cabinetry materials, in 5, 10, 15, 20 years, there are going to be certain materiality differences between what you've had and what you have, which are what's available, that's going to allow you to do all kinds of new things with it.
I agree. We're a lot like Mazda. I don't know if you're familiar with Mazda in the car making industry, but
Are they in NASCAR?
no. Are they in NASCAR? No,
I don't think so.
Okay.
What Mazda has done has said, all right, look, we know that EVs are a big thing. We know that they're coming up. We'll dabble in it, but what we'll let all the other companies do is do the development for us, do the R&D, because we don't have a huge R&D budget. We're not the 800-pound gorilla in the room. But what we can do is we can dial in this piston engine, we can get it, we can increase our compression ratio, we can increase our output, we can get 35 miles per gallon in this little Miata, and you're going to have so much miles per gallon. And that's what we focused on, is how do we deliver the best value of the cabinets with the materials we have today, while other people do the R&D and spend all the big bucks for us for tomorrow.
I caught that too. Smiles per gallon. I caught that.
Yeah. One of the things I think we do very well too is Michael and Nathan both mentioned connections. We do look outside of our company to learn. There are things that we do, for instance, in manufacturing. We look at issues that are out there in the world, whether it's consumers or the dealers and designers, and we try to engineer them away in the beginning. As an example, one of the biggest issues in the kitchen industry is center panels on doors will shift and you'll see some raw wood on the inside edge. Nobody wants to have that. The customer, the designer, the dealer, but that's actually the norm in the kitchen industry. We looked at other companies that don't have that issue, usually very, very custom companies, and they pre-finish those center panels so that never occurs. We do the same thing. We do experiment with materials. I shouldn't say experiment, because probably the best proven material for painting is actually MDF. It was interesting, we started painting MDF probably before Green Forest started. We were involved with a small micro manufacturer before that, started painting MDF because we live on the coast. So we have high humidity, expansion and contraction. I don't care what cabinet company you are, if you paint wood, it will expand and contract, and eventually it will fracture at the joinery. So we started painting MDF probably 20 years ago. We went mass market with it 10 years ago, and it's really funny to walk through the show now and see a lot of the big manufacturers are all of a sudden painting MDF, and it's because they realize that you can engineer away a problem that was acceptable until somebody did it where it wasn't a problem, and then it became unacceptable. So we're always very willing to experiment with things, but we put it through a lot of testing before we do that.
I think, John's referring to the case method, copy and steal everything that works. And so, if we see something that works, we jump right on it. And actually, I was just talking with our engineer, and he saw some new woodworking machinery. There's an old woodworking thing where if you're going to do dovetails, you really ought to do the male and the female end at the same time. But nowadays, with diamond tooling, you can get the same sharp blade with the same cut, consistent enough over batches that you can start mixing dovetails. So some people have started doing it. We're keeping our eye on it. We're not doing it right now. But there's things like that my engineer tells me about all the time that we keep our eye on. If somebody does it successfully, we use the case method.
But you also won't learn a lot of these things if you're not well connected, like John said. And I think one of the things that's different about us is we certainly you would take a company that people would look at and say, hey, that's one of your competitors. We're friendly with them.
Yeah.
We have calls with them regularly. We talk with them. We ask them how they're doing. They ask us. We help them if we can. And I think we look at it as, hey, it's one large industry. There's plenty of money out there, and there's success to be had across the board. And so I think we all need to share and discuss things, because it makes everybody better. It makes a kitchen more affordable for the end consumer, and that's really the ultimate goal.
Yeah, it happens in the auto industry. Ford and Toyota will come together and they'll try to make carburetors better. They did that in the 80s. They've been doing it up until today. We see that in other industries too.
What's interesting to me as well, and this is so I'm a woodworker. I'm a wood turner, right? Wood turning. So I turn wood. And I moved from Southern California, where it was 70, sunny, low humidity, desert, moved to Tulsa, Oklahoma, where during the summer, it's 100 and 80% humidity. And in the winter, it's 5 and 10% humidity. And most people don't have the opportunity to see what that does. You're talking about painting. If you have cabinetry, you're painting it, right? Yep. And if it's painting, it's going to expand and contract. And it doesn't matter if it's new or old. It happens, and that's why you talk about moving to a new idea like MDF and painting it. And then you have a separate set of issues like potentially weight and things that you have to work with there. But my point is, the experimentation is absolutely critical to understand how your product's going to respond in certain environments. Now, as we're talking about challenges, whether you believe in climate change, global warming, whatever you believe is whatever you believe, and that's totally cool. When weather patterns change, your wood doesn't have an opinion. Your wood simply responds. There is no opinion to have, right? It just does what it does. Knowing that, how do you account for changing scenarios in weather patterns? And I'll give you a perfect example. The Bay Area of California is a remarkable wine region, but it's not as remarkable as it used to be. Seattle is a great wine region now. For how long, we don't know. Texas, you have great wines in Texas. Things are moving and shifting, and you have to sort of move and shift with them. And I just wonder if that's part of the calculus for you.
I would say it's kind of like we talked about the business, about adaptability, right? So MDF, using that as a material, is an adaptable material. It's going to hold up much better in whatever environment you're picking, whereas we learned in our environment, being in a high humidity area, that wood isn't necessarily the right way to build a frame on a door, right? We use wood plenty of other places, but on the frame of a painted door, not a great idea. So I think it's about, always having materials, but more uncertain that are adaptable, but more importantly, as a company being more adaptable and trying to be on that leading edge. Michael talked about, being able to watch other big companies and how they do things. We're a really nice sized company now, but we have the ability to make changes much more quickly. We're not a multinational global company where, we have to go through 47 layers of corporate management and all of those things. We make changes a lot more quickly, but I will say, Michael mentioned earlier, data-driven. We pay attention to what's going on, not just in materials like that, but in the fashion side, because we as a business focus on the 80% rule, right? What we want to sell, we want you to be more profitable on the 80% of kitchens that you are moving or you're working with a client on. And in order to do that, we have to stay on trend, whether it's materials, color, style of door, or such. So we spend a great deal of our time watching what the trends are, but more so validating them. It's very easy to walk through a show like this and, a color. I'm just picking pink today because it's not the popular color. But you might walk through the show and there's 50 booths show pink. Where they're showing pink because it's different than anybody else is showing, but it doesn't mean you're ever going to sell a pink kitchen. So when you start to see these things pop up, a lot of companies will go, oh, I saw that at the show. The first thing we do is go, hey, we saw that at the show. Now let's go to all the major players and let's look what the trend lines are.
Yeah, I just sent an email to my buddy over at Sherwin-Williams. I said, hey, I'm about to be at the KBIS show. It's time for me to get my report. How are the colors looking in our market? What's moving, so that we can have a better idea of the trends.
Yeah, we want to catch it on the uptrend. So that's why we do that.
What is your market?
East of the Mississippi, mostly. We're an East Coast company. So we're based in Virginia, the Virginia Beach area. We ship cabinets up and down the coast and basically east of the Mississippi. We just have stepped over that. So I would say that our market in general is that, but probably the predominant area is up and down the coast itself.
Yeah.
Do you think about expansion?
Absolutely.
Do you act on those thoughts?
Absolutely. Do we look like the kind of people that sit around?
No.
No. Are we in this booth because we sit around and don't change?
Well, that's my question, is when you think about expansion, because you had mentioned when we started talking that this is one of your verticals. This is one of your companies.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yes.
you have multiple other companies, and you have a territory. And as you think about changing your strategy, not changing your strategy, but enhancing your strategy, and potentially looking into new markets and new areas to go, you have things that you have to consider. You have to consider logistics. You have to consider supply. You have to consider sales and sales commissions. You have to consider showrooms and breaking into new places where you can show. These are all real issues that take place on the floor of KBIS and IBS every single year. How do you approach that? And what markets would you like to see yourself in, and call it a 2 to 5 year window?
Yeah, so I think there's multiple ways to look at expansion. It's not just growing green forest sales, for example. So one of the things we've done in the last few years is we've looked at, we have 4 companies now. One was purchased, 2 were created, started by us, and one of those businesses is really to allow us more vertical integration in some of the products that we're using in green forest cabinetry. So, that gives us greater control over green forest, so it allows us, to obviously have that efficiency there, but it also allows us to expand our sales in a different way. So I can take this product and I can sell it through other channels. So now I'm diversifying my sales channels. I'm also creating an efficiency for green forest. And it's just something fun for us to do as well. We've done a very good job, John, Michael, and myself, of creating a business that really runs itself now, and we have great teams. And so sometimes John, Michael, and I will be sitting around the conference room table saying, "Hey, we got to figure out something to do and something next. What's next?" Because we're looking for something fun. We're looking for something that's going to allow all of our companies to be successful. One of the things is 3.5 years ago, I guess now, we purchased a business right in our market. And we purchased it for the manufacturing operation. They were a woodworking business. And when we purchased it, they had their own little retail operation. So it was interesting. All of a sudden, we got vision into what our dealers and distributors are experiencing every day. So it really allowed us to have much better insight into how we should cater green forest as a line, because it's not just getting feedback from our customers. We actually are seeing it day to day. We're connected with the people that are selling our product every single day. And so it was a huge advantage for us at Green Forest to have that. And so, I think expansion can look different in different lights.
And I would say, we don't golf, we don't fish. Mm-hmm. I'm trying to think of what else we don't do. We work,
Yeah.
work is our hobby.
Yep.
That's what we do. And, and you can see by, the age of these two that we need to keep growing new opportunities, right? And so Nathan mentioned the one business, but I could tell you that as we've expanded the businesses, we've found ways to partner with even other manufacturers. And one of our newest businesses, Nathan was alluding to, are products that we can actually partner with other manufacturers that you might even say, hey, we're all trying to sell into the same field, but we can do things more efficiently to help them as well. Mm-hmm. So it's not just about expansion of territory to sell more green forest cabinetry. It's about an expansion of our reach in all channels, because we have a number of advantages that most companies don't have in relationships, and we can actually extend those to people that are in the same market as we are, but we can help grow their businesses too.
I wonder too, because those relationships are important, and we talk about expansion, and sometimes expansion simply has to do with having that end of chain relationship. Mm-hmm. And I'm curious, for what you do, how do you stay connected to the end user so that you can understand how they're using your product, how they're really using your product? Because, like I said, kitchens have changed in just the past 5 years, and fundamentally, it's changed, and the way that they function has changed. How do you stay, and I imagine tech is a large part of that, but how do you stay connected?
Yeah, I think a portion of that is something that John's already touched on, which is, how many walls are between the CEO and the most entry-level person at your company? Because if you're not hearing what's happening at the ground floor, not necessarily that you have to have your fingers into it, but you have to have that open environment where you're listening to what's going on. You're getting customer feedback. You're a part of those discussions, so that you're allowed to have that open environment discussion to talk about what products need to come out, what changes need to be made in processes, that kind of thing. So I think...
and I think another big part of that is KBIS. Just being here, talking to our dealers. A lot of them bring their customers. A lot of customers we meet that we've never met before, have been buying our product for years, and have nothing but good things to say. Some of them are, really excited to meet us for the first time, and it's so interesting. It's like they know you so well, So yeah, it's really nice to have this as an outlet to meet, not only customers we haven't met before, but customers of our customers.
Well, and internally, we talked about having the other businesses, and we talked about the 30 under 30s on our team. We actually will hire students right out of the Virginia Tech RED program, the Residential Environmental Design program. I've actually been a board member there 2 different terms. And we've had a number of people that work for us that come right out of the program, which is the only 4-year accredited program in the kitchen and bath world. So we hire them. We have some that work for us right now. We have we have a number of folks that work for us, which are designers today. We have 5 people, 4 more people, but 5 total that we flew into KBIS last night that are walking the show that deal directly with consumers every day. That's what they do. So when Nathan mentioned the expansion of having the local company that we bought, the micro manufacturer, and it having that small retail division, we have learned so much. I thought we knew everything, but we've learned so much more from the day-to-day of what our own people now tell us from interacting with customers or what needs are. And you were also talking about, changes in the kitchen. How do you keep up with that? They'll come to us and say, XYZ appliance has now become so important in kitchens. You need to make sure that you have a cabinet that we can order off the shelf that houses that and functions real well. And we do a lot of testing of that. We go through, but we really rely on that team, and they're very dynamic, and we're very proud of them. A number of them are award-winning in what they've done. And we're just very fortunate to be able to have that connection. Again, we're not sawdust people. We have kick-ass cabinets, but that's not who we are. We're about meeting the end consumer's need, and we do everything we can to know as much about that as possible.
Listen, to your point, something that I have been hearing about on the show a lot lately, which is really, and it's come up so many times. Because what I generally will do is I'll talk to creatives, I'll talk to designers about their journey, and then oftentimes, if I'm so inclined, I'll go into their projects and look at their portfolios. And I wind up in the kitchen because I love kitchens. I love a well-designed kitchen. The appliance garage. It's a thing, and it's not only a thing, but it's been around for a little bit. But now it's not just a roll-up desk. Right? It's not just that approach. It's how creative can designers get with an appliance garage? And they've got power supply, and they've got pullouts, and they've got doors that open, and they've got partial doors that open, and you can take out some appliances. You can have somewhat of a lazy Susan where you can rotate appliances and then bring them. It is absolutely incredible. That's a thing that I can see as part of It's not a fully completed kitchen. At some point, I see this, unless it's got one. It's not there yet, but it's things like that that's incredible. And I wonder if you guys find yourselves seeing similar things.
Well, I would say yesterday in the booth, there was multiple conversations about exactly that. Like you, I imagine it's that door that slides up and eventually the backer breaks. You guys are too young to have seen that.
No, we had one of those in our first home.
It was in your house. Lived in their grandmother's house.
Yep.
But it is funny because that's something that for a while went away. Kind of like wood hoods, right? Wood hoods for a number of years just disappeared. And then a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, wood hoods were the hot thing. So, we as a manufacturer need to be able to adapt and jump right back into that game again. And I do know, it's funny that you brought up the appliance garages because I heard that 2 or 3 times in the booth yesterday. Yep.
It's incredible. And the more you do this, the more you realize how much left there is to do. It's like I ran a marathon once, and my takeaway from it was as I was running towards, it was a long street towards the finish line, which had a Ferris wheel at the end. The closer I got, the further away it seemed to get. And sometimes it feels that way, right? Mm-hmm. Listen, I cannot thank you guys enough. This was so much fun. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for coming in and sharing the story here at the KBIS podcast studio. Really, really appreciate it. Love your story. Cannot wait to see what you guys do next.
Thank you for having
Awesome.
us today.
We appreciate
and
you,
I
Josh.
want to end with, there's a huge opportunity for everybody in this building. We're sitting on so much money that are available from HELOCs and so forth in the future. I think, what did we look at the numbers the other day? I forgot how many trillions of dollars that are out there. So I know the industry, we've done really well. The industry's had some challenges recently, but there's a lot of opportunity out there that I think everybody in this building has an opportunity to look forward to.
It's pretty exciting, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It is when you think about the money that's on the sidelines right now. So they're just waiting for some security, right? Where they can make a decision and move. But this is a very exciting time.
John, Michael, Nathan, thank you guys. Thank you so much.
Appreciate you.
Well, I promised you a great conversation, and that's exactly what you got. Thank you to everyone who participated in the KBIS podcast studio this year, presented by AJ Madison. Marnie, thank you so much for helping me produce all of these episodes from the studio this year. Thank you, Leanne, and the whole team at Flying Camel for all of your help and support. Thank you, Emerald. Thank you, Rachel and Sean. Sean, thank you so much for all of your technical support. Just could not have possibly done it without you. Thank you, NKBA. And God, thank you, AJ Madison Pro. Thank you for sponsoring the KBIS podcast studio again this year. Just remarkable. And thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to this series. Thank you to everybody who came out and participated in one way or another at the KBIS podcast studio this year. It was so much fun, and I cannot wait to see you next year. Thanks again for listening. See you next time.